Good morning. I was going to go over my bag right here that I normally take out in the field with my ham radio stuff, and maybe give some people that are getting into the hobby some ideas of what they should bring or what they shouldn't bring. I tend to carry a lot of stuff and sometimes way too much, but this normally lives in my truck most of the time, and so this is always with me. And then I also carry a EDC bag with me that goes from vehicle to vehicle, but this normally stays in my truck, and I can use this for POTA, so I activate POTA parts with this equipment, but I also, just in case of an emergency or something like that, I always have it with me, and I'm able to make those contacts that I need in case of an emergency. So I was going to go over this, and then I was going to add some other things that I am trying to switch out and maybe condense my ham radio stuff and see if it all works out, and maybe it'll give you some ideas. So anyway, I'll get this off the table and then I'll go through it. You can see I've got it pretty packed out. It's pretty compact and got a lot of stuff in here. This is one of the talent shelves that I use for my activations. I like the talent cell. I've got a couple of them here. This is a 3000. I think this is the 6000 milliamp battery, and then this is the 20,000 milliamp battery. And these have worked out really well for me. All of them have a USB, and so I'm able to charge my cell phone and the radio at the same time. I carry a solar panel in here. I believe I went over that with my last video, but I'll go over that as well in here. So let me get this off the table, and then I will go through it. In the background, you can see I've got the Panasonic ToughPad, and this is a tablet that I've got this keyboard on. I've got a way to charge that out in the field off of a inverter. This one right here has 9-volt in it, and so I have an adapter that will go to this, and so I could actually charge this tablet off of this if I needed to in the field. But I always carry an extra battery with me, and so that's worked out for my POTA activations. I don't hardly ever have to use the second battery for the activation. That usually lasts 2 or 3 hours with the way it's set up now. I'm sure with a bigger battery I could make that last all day, but for my use case, these two batteries together, I've never had an issue with that. In my bag here, I carry a lot of things like a throw line. Throwing a end-fed half wave up in a tree makes a really good antenna and makes it really convenient, and it's really quick for me. And so this is one of the ways that I like to activate a park and easily and accessibly. I guess I'll start with UHF VHF. So I carry the HD1 with me on this bag. This goes pretty much everywhere I go, just in case. I'm usually able to hit the repeater in the near town that I'm at. This little Miracle BNC antenna works really good for that. I've switched all of my little handhelds over to BNC, and as you'll be able to tell here in a minute, my QRP radios are all BNC as well, and so that works out. I only have to carry one cable versus several, and if there's a problem, I always have a backup because I carry a cable for both the UHF, VHF, and for the QRP radios. My handheld kit is this, and in here I've got some pretty cool accessories that go along with it. I've got the APRS cable and a digi-rig and stuff like that, which would go to my tablet if I wanted to do FL message or anything with a digital communications as far as that goes. I have an extra battery, and these are USB-C chargeable. These are DMR, or this one's DMR. And I like DMR, but DMR is not for everybody. But for my use case scenario, I like DMR, and it works really good for me. I'm able to use a digital connection along with an internet connection, either way. And so that gives me just one more step of being able to communicate and getting my contact across if I needed to. So I carry some extra coax, this is just the 3/16, and it rolls up really nice, probably pretty lossy, but as long as I'm able to make the contact that I need and be efficient, then it works for me. It would probably be better to go with a RG8 or something like that, but it's not near as compact, and so I'm able to get a lot more into my little bag that I've got using a smaller coax. So I really like the signal stick. It really works well for me. So when I need a better antenna, I just pop this one off here and I put this one on, and it really works. It allows me to get a lot farther distance. I haven't really run into a situation where that hasn't worked for me around this area, but you never know where you're going to be. You might be in a wooded area or something like that, and you might need a little bit farther. I've been able to make 18, 19 miles where I'm at using this handheld to handheld, but we're out here in Flatland, Oklahoma, and so that makes it a lot different scenario. I've been in wooded areas where I couldn't get a mile or two out with either one of these antennas, and so your area is definitely going to determine how far your radio will go. I have a lot of individuals ask me, how far will your radio reach? Well, I've made UHF VHF contacts at about 65 miles is about as far as I've made them, but I've got a 40-foot pole in the backyard, and I was using a 50-watt radio. So it really is determined on your location, line of sight, propagation. There's a lot more into it than just grabbing a radio and making that contact. I've also seen where snow and ice has made a huge difference, and I had to switch over to a GMRS frequency in order to make that contact, whereas a couple days later all that was melted and we couldn't make the same contact using a GMRS radio. We had to go back to using UHF or VHF, I believe, on that contact, and it was about 18 miles was the contact that we were making. So all of that goes into effect. Now, if I was wanting to go ahead and step up, I think a roll-up J-pole, and I think I said that in the last video, that the roll-up J-pole is the way to go if you want to make those longer distance contacts. Well, I can't really fit a roll-up J-pole in this bag, so I reached out to Farajay and got one of his roll-up J-poles, and I'm able to put that in this Altoids can. So you can see how small it rolls up, and this is a full-size roll-up J-pole, and it works really well. Now, I also like to carry the BNC binding post Cobra head, and you can stick that on there, and you can actually make a wire antenna out of just about anything. There's a formula that we use in order to calculate the frequency that you're wanting to get on, and so you can pretty much make a antenna out of anything as far as that goes. Having this in here not only allows me to make an antenna for this radio, but it also allows me to make one for my QRP radio, and that's in an emergency. I would want to be able to, I want all the means that I can to make that contact. At the end of the day, that's what I'm trying to do. So if people tell you that won't work and you haven't tried it, well, I encourage you to go out and at least give it a shot, because there's a lot of things that are weird and they don't necessarily work for one individual in the location that he's at, but it might work for you in the location that you're at. So also in here, I just have a couple accessories. I have a little USB DC port that I can put in the truck if I needed to charge something. I have little micro USBs, and then this is another little dongle that I got off of Amazon that it's the multi, so it's got USB and USB-C lightning. There's a micro USB. There's your lightnings, and so you could do lightning to lightning. But for this bag, this allows me to charge that radio if I needed to off of a power bank. I always have a power bank on me. When I'm going into the field doing the POTA, I always have the USB, so I'm able to charge something like that in the field. And that helps and works out. So you can see that's a fairly intensive kit and really, really small. Also in my bag, I carry this is just an accessory bag. Both of these bags were bought at Hobby Lobby. This one actually I melted a couple beeswax bars that I had, and so I actually waxed canvas this, but they're just regular canvas bags. A couple bucks at, I believe, Hobby Lobby, but you know, they work out really well. In here I've got all my accessories. I've got way too much as far as that goes, but I've got this little external speaker. Some of these QRP radios, they just don't sound very good, and so a external speaker really helps you be able to hear what you're listening, or be able to hear the contact that you're trying to make on the radio, and makes a weaker signal a lot louder, and so you can actually make that contact. I have a couple of those in there. The only thing, this button here is really sensitive, and I find myself hitting it a lot. I actually just turned it on right there, and not meaning to. So you have to at least have a way to charge it in the field if you do leave it on and run it out of battery. I've got other cables that would run my digital modes for my radio if I needed to. I'm not going to go through all of this, but just a couple. Got an extra in-fed half wave in there. I've got, I believe this is I'm drawing a blank on this one, but a filter. It's a noise filter for the 6100, so I always carry that one with me. I stumbled across these right here, and I really like them. It was another a guy that was doing a YouTube video, and I saw he was using these, so I actually incorporated several of these for a lot of my kit, and I really like that. That brings it down to a smaller package, keeps it organized, and I don't have to necessarily use one of these Velcro straps in order to keep it secure, but it folds down really quick, and so I can pack that up fairly quickly and get it across. I also carry just a kind of a cheap set of headphones in here, just in case there's a lot of noise around me or something like that. There's been some times where I can almost hear them, but just not quite, and throwing these in, I was able to make the contact with that. So that, I always suggest, you know, throwing a set of headphones in your bag. I also have, this is a three-way splitter for your DC connection, because if I'm plugging one into my radio, one into the battery, then I might need another source in order to power it up, and so that allows me to do that. Also like to carry an extension cord for the DC port so that I can get my solar panel out there. I don't like my equipment out in the sun, and so getting it a little farther from where I'm sitting, obviously I don't want to sit out in the sun, so I get this a little bit farther out there, and that allows me to get the solar panel out there and getting charging with voltage, but it also allows me to stay in the shade. So I like these little Altoids cans. They work out really well. In this one, I just picked up, this is an SWR meter that goes, it's only good for I think 5 watts, but it's an inline 20 to 80 meter SWR meter. Really cool. device. It's 3D printed. You can buy this online. I'm drawing a blank on who does it, but I think most of this is actually by him. The little filter is made by him as well. I think that was a kit and I put it together, but he has it where you can buy it. This is a common mode choke that he has developed. And then K6ARK does some outstanding little activations with small devices. And I've been experimenting with some of those, and I really like those as well. And he's got one of these tiny mics for the True SDX. And he had, I think there's another model for the KX2, but I run the True SDX, so I just have this in here. And I don't think that he's the one that does this paddle, but this is a tiny paddle that I carry in here as well. And I'm trying to learn Morse code, and so this gives me a backup in order to always have that with me. But pretty decent little CW key. They call it a backup key, but it works pretty good. I would use this if I needed to, so I would consider it a backup key. But if this is all you had, this definitely works, and I've made contacts on it. Okay, so that was going over my little adapter kit. Now I will have to say, shout out to all the YouTubers out there. This is like the 4th attempt that I've tried to make this work. I'm having difficulties with my camera. But we're going to get through it. So I'll move right on to antennas. The antenna that I like to bring with me in my backpack is the Gable. This seems to work really well. I'm able to just screw this on here, extend the whip, and this will go on here, and this will set actually in a tripod that I'm using to film this. And so for me, this is a really, really tiny package. With a compromised vertical like this, you would need a way in order to have your counterpoise as well. And so the solution that I came up with was, I think it comes with these little push buttons that you can cramp on here or use a banana plug for. But I didn't necessarily like that idea. And so I came up with my own set of counterpoise, and I installed a banana plug on the ends of those. And then I bought this little alligator clip, heat shrinked on some banana plugs as well. And so now I'm able to just install these like this here. And I'm able to take this alligator clip and clip it on there. And that makes a really nice counterpoise for me. Now, also, I like the BNC adapters, so I put a BNC adapter on here. I like the 3/16 coax is the coax that I like to use. It has a little bit of loss, but for me and the style of operating that I use, I will take the little bit of loss for the compactness of the coax. Obviously, I'm carrying way too much as it is, and so every little bit that I can bring down the size of it helps out a lot. So I have the Gable here. Now I also have an in-fed half wave in my accessory bag that I carry with me. I also carry an extra in-fed half wave in my radio bag. But if you're out in the field and you don't have a tree and you don't have a way of deploying a wire antenna, that would be my preferred method for an emergency communications. This would definitely work for everything that I need to with parks on the air, and so I carry that one because I want to make the contact. But if I was wanting to make a short distance invis communication or something like that, I like the wire antennas. Well, I started with one of these Gocher fishing rod telescoping poles, and it's okay. The only issue that I really had with this is when you get towards the end, it's really, really flexible, and this is missing the last 4 or 5 sections. And so you've brought down the size of this quite a bit just to make it to where it's usable. The other issue is this is really long. I mean, this is a pretty long fishing pole, in order to make, so it's just difficult to put in my backpack. And so for me, this stays in the pickup because I don't want to carry it with me just because it's a little bit too big. Now, trying to find a solution to make that a little bit smaller, I went out and I bought me a tactical mini, and this is by the Soda Beans, and really nice portable mast. It works really well for me. It's a lot smaller, and I like that. I looked at the Carbon 6, and for me it was just a little bit too flexible, but it fits in a backpack really nice. And so this was the solution that I came up with, and for now it was working really good, and I really enjoyed it. The only issue was it's kind of a pain in the butt to set up with the guy wires and those kind of things. I've got a 3D printed guy wire kit for this, and so it just takes a little bit more time than throwing a wire antenna into a tree. And not only that, is this almost fits in my backpack, but it's just not quite. My backpack ends about right here, and it just quite won't fit in my backpack. And so I find myself leaving this in the truck and not having it with me. And if I don't have it with me, then I'm obviously not going to use it. And so that's kind of difficult, or it's been frustrating trying to find something that's the perfect size that works, and works every time, but also fits. If I downsized or I bought a bigger backpack or something like that, well, now you're carrying more weight because I'm going to fill the backpack. And so for me, this wasn't the answer. Now, this is an outstanding mast, and I'm always going to have it with me in my truck. It works really well and very strong and good quality parts. But another YouTuber just released a mast that I was interested in, and I picked it up, and I am highly, I really like it. It's been an outstanding mast so far. Now, this is the Ham Radio Dude Little Dude 6, and he included this little 3D printed mount on the end of it, so you can put your antenna there. You can see as you extend it here, it's got some play, but that's a pretty good size for the last piece. So you're not taking you're not having to take pieces off of it in order to make it work. You can use this whole entire mast as your antenna mast instead of wasting a whole bunch of it. But it's also small enough that it will fit in my backpack. So you can see it's quite a bit smaller than the Tactical Mini. Great quality. I think this guy went above and beyond. Definitely, in my opinion, matches the quality of a way nicer mast and at a fraction of the cost. I believe he's got these somewhere around $70 on Etsy. You should definitely look these up. Well worth the price. Well worth more than this, in my opinion. I'm just blown away by the quality of this mast, and it's worked really well. But even if it was a little bit less quality, it fits in my backpack, and so I have it with me. I would much rather have something that fit in my backpack and I can take with me and have the opportunity of using, than leave it behind because it's just a little bit big. Now, having said that, he did not skimp on the quality. This is a quality item, quality mast, and I cannot recommend this mast enough. Now, he's also going to release here in I think a couple months, the 2.0 Dude Spike, I believe is the name that he's going with. And you put a spike in the ground, take the bottom cap off, stick this over there. Well, that's going to make this deployment so much easier. And, and when you talk about some of this equipment, if you make it easier, well, then you use it more often. And if you use it more often, you're more comfortable with it, and it just makes an overall better situation for you. So I cannot recommend this enough. Ham Radio Dude is awesome. I've been watching his videos and highly recommend go check out this mast on Etsy. Can't recommend that enough. Great product. Now, using a mast, obviously I would use my end-fed half wave. Let me just grab my radio kit here. Now this is in my last video. This is the bag that I had in a little go box that I had made, and I don't know that I went through any of it. So I wanted to go ahead, and that's kind of the reason I made this video, was to kind of go over this context and the rest of my bag. This little bag is bought at Gigaparts. I believe it was a mystery box, so I'm not exactly sure if they still have them or anything like that, but it works really well for me. And inside of here, I like to carry just some adapters and things like that, little USB to micro, so I can charge the little this little portable speaker, you know, in case I accidentally leave it on and it goes dead in the field. I also carry a USB-C to USB-C cable with an adapter to USB-A for my digital modes. But the end-fed half-wave that I use for this kit is the X10. This is another Etsy find, 49 to 1, 56 to 1, and 64 to 1 end-fed half-wave, but I mainly leave it on 49 to 1, but it works really well for me and great for the money. Just been an outstanding antenna. It's pretty small, pretty compact, fits in here really well. And then I like to carry some this is an adapter to my radio, and then this is to the DC ports for the Talent Cell batteries in order to charge this, or in order to power this up in the field using the solar panel that I have over there. I also carry 25 foot of coax with me. This is the 3/16. Like I said, it has maybe a little bit more loss, but I like the size and compactness of it, and so I'm okay with that. I've been able to make the contacts that I need, and so that hasn't affected it much, and so for me, this is where it works. Now, one of the main reasons I wanted to make this video was because I'm trying to make this smaller and more compact and those kind of things, and you know, I started with this cable right here, and this microphone went to your radio, and this, you know, went in here, and so you had this amount of cable. Well, this cable gets in my way, and I kept pulling the radio off the table and things like that, so I was looking for a solution for that. And I just tried a regular patch cable, and I can't remember how long this is, 6 feet or so, patch cable, but that worked great, and that's worked really well for me out in the field. The only issue is I've got this bundled up mess, and trying to make everything a little bit neater and more compact. Well, when I was looking for the little auxiliary retractable cords, I stumbled across this one, and this is just a regular patch cable, but it's a retractable cable, 6 feet long, and it works fabulously. You know, I can make it the length that I want, activate, do what I need to do, but then at the end of the day, when I'm done, it's pretty compact. It breaks down into this little package, and so for me, obviously this is an outstanding find, and I was just hoping that maybe this would help somebody else out in the future. And then the radio of choice that I have in here is my X6100. Now you can see that I've packed quite a bit of stuff into this little box or bag here, but this is the way I operate, and this is how I like to you know, chase POTA, but also I use this for an emergency, just in case, you know. And I also have a little set of headphones in here that I 3D printed the case, and that's worked out pretty good for me. It's got a little sand in there because obviously I was using these last time down at the beach, but it's worked out really well for me. I like the little 3D printed cases and stuff like that. If I break one, I just move on and print another one. It's not that big a deal, not the end of the world. Now, that's the radio kit. That's what I carry in my bag. I carry some other stuff that I'll go over and maybe it'll help somebody out in the future, or what I recommend. I got a little bag here that I've made. It's got all my pneumatic words in here, you know, Alpha, Bravo, you know, stuff like that, just to keep where I'm learning that kind of stuff. But this is the Bamatech key that I've purchased, and it is an outstanding key. Just works flawlessly. In fact, it's sometimes harder to use some of the other keys after you've used this, but this is very expensive, and so I do carry this, but I try to protect it. I've made this little 3D printed case and stuff for that. I think I found this on Thingiverse, the file for it. In my little bag here that I've got a logbook and got another one of these little retractable cables. It's worked out really well for me. I like them, and I just like the compactness and the neatness of it. And then I carry, some pencils, and always have an extra set of headphones. And about all of my little bags that I've got a little cheap set of headphones just in case. You never know if you break one. I just want to always have an extra set with me. And then speaking of 3D printing and 3D printed cases, I stumbled across a couple days ago K6ARK. He makes all kinds of stuff, and I found his on printables, I believe. And this is the Pico paddle. It's been an outstanding paddle for the last couple days that I've tested out. But I kind of wanted one, but man, they're expensive and they're hard to find. And so he made his 3D printed version of the Pico paddle. And this is really a pretty cool paddle. It's pretty cool to use, and it's compact, it's protected. And K6ARK has done a lot of things for the hobby, and definitely YouTuber you should go out and check out. All of these are his, and this is another one, but cheap, very cheap to make. Just a couple dollars in parts and then some 3D filament. But you can test out different things. I don't have a single paddle, and so I wanted to test out a single paddle. For me, and this just might be my own personal thing on it, but for me, I have to get to about 25 words a minute in order to make this work. I don't know why. I don't know if that's the way a single paddle works, but I can't understand things at 15 words a minute, so that's a little bit fast for me, but I do like the operation of it. I think that's pretty cool, but for me to make it work right, I had to turn the speed up quite a bit. I seem to be able to send at about 18 words a minute, but receiving, I'm still struggling. So, but that gave me the opportunity to make a paddle, wire it all up, and then test it out before I actually purchased one. And obviously something like this is pretty expensive, and I've got a couple dollars in one of these, and they work, and I'm able to make contacts on them. I've made a couple contacts on this one. I'm just testing it out, and then I've got a little trainer here that I was using the rest of them just to make sure that they worked. Another cool thing, I think the ham radio dude had a video on a fuse block to power poles, and I thought that was pretty cool, and so I kind of modified a little case that I found on Thingiverse, and found these little screw-in fuse holders on Amazon. You solder the connection to it and then go to a power pole, and I thought this gave it a pretty clean look, and I shout out to Ham Radio Dude for throwing out the idea there, but I was able to take that and kind of make my own model of it, and I thought this looks pretty clean. I had to glue the bottom on so that you can see the glue in there, but pretty clean little box in order for you to have some fuses on with your radio. So if I've got a different bag that I carry that has all my connections for the power poles. Well, if I was wanting to another couple of things that I've been messing with here's this is the Nano VNA. I use this for antenna analysis and stuff like that, checking my SWR. It's worked pretty good. Definitely a little bit of a learning curve on it, but if you wanted an antennalyzer and you didn't want to pay rig expert prices, I think that this is a good beginner or way to get into that. and it gives you an ability to test your antenna and get it tuned. This is a antenna that you have to tune, and it gives you that ability in order to do that out in the field. When you're testing equipment and those kind of things, I always recommend a dummy load. QRP Labs has a pretty cool little kit, beginner kit, I would say, and you just solder it up, and then I printed the case, and that's worked out really well, for me also. Way to make this whole kit a little bit smaller, I stumbled across the DigiPi, and that's what this is. It's powered up micro USB, and so I can take one of my Talent Cell batteries, power it up USB to micro, and then that's your computer. That's how it's operated. Now, I mentioned in the last video, in my EDC bag, I always carry this little folder that I'd made, and it's got all of my I've got a notebook and write in the rain, pencils, pens, and stuff like that. But it also carries my tablet, and this is just a cheap little ONN tablet that I carry, and I carry this everywhere. And so now, this would give me the ability to use a USB-C cable in order to plug into here, and then I would obviously adapt this over to USB and plug it in here. I have that cable laying here somewhere, but anyway, so that would give me the ability to operate JS8 Call FT8 using a tablet, and you can see that's quite a bit smaller than the Panasonic Toughbook, and so maybe that gives somebody else an idea of how they can condense their little computer areas. So far, that's worked pretty good here around the shack. I just haven't had the ability to get out in the field and test this, and so I'm not 100% comfortable with it, but so far it's worked flawlessly, and so I have no reason to believe that it won't work. And like I said, that works for me. It might not necessarily work for everybody else, but just a cool idea, and thought I would share that. Another thing that I just picked up is this window mount. Now, this, in your vehicle, this goes on your window, and you roll the window back out. This goes to your radio. And for UHF, VHF, this would work great. You could put your signal stick on this, hook this to your radio. Well, my thought behind buying this is, I wanted a way to have a HF mobile as well. And so I'm going to try this. I haven't tried this, and I haven't seen any other YouTuber necessarily do this either. And so I'm kind of just doing my own experiment. But I'm going to put an adapter to BNC on this. Screw this onto here. Well, now I've got a little mobile HF radio. Well, you would have to have your radials. I wouldn't use this while I was driving, but when I get parked, I can take my little alligator clamp that I use my counterpoise on, and I can clip this anywhere. I mean, anywhere, and get my antenna, on there, and so I think that will work. Obviously, a lot of this hobby is all about testing, things and just trying. What works for me might not work for you, and vice versa. But maybe this will give somebody else an idea, and I thought this was kind of a cool concept and something I thought of, and so I'd like to see if it'd work. Now, I also carry a little GPS dongle. There's several YouTubers out there that recommend this, and it just gives me my fixed GPS location, and so when I'm operating in the field, obviously that's a necessity when you're doing JS8 Call or FT8 or any kind of digital mode. Your time has to be accurate, and so this would allow me to do that. That brings that package down quite a bit versus having to use the Panasonic, and then I'd still have to use the GPS on that as well, just the way that's set up. Just another couple random things here that I have that I thought I'd throw in here. I've been using this. This is a kayak seat. When I went and activated the Buffalo River, I actually used this. I used this at a football game the other night on an aluminum bench as well, and it worked really well. This is just the little rubber seat that you get for a kayak, but I also have been experimenting with it, using it as a back support for my backpack. So when I'm carrying my backpack, I've got the extra support. And then also, if I sat on the ground, or it's the breathable material, so if it gets wet, it's not that big a deal. And it's got the little ribs on here, so it doesn't slide around a whole lot, but it's way more comfortable than just sitting on the ground. And so this is just something I threw in here and that I've been using, and I thought I would share that. I think I've gone over everything that was in my bag. I've had to do this video a couple times because my cell phone is not cooperating. So hopefully this one turned out. I don't do the editing thing, so I'll just clip a couple pics or a couple of the videos and try to put them together and hope for the best here. I'm releasing this around Christmas time, so I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas. You know, I mentioned a couple YouTubers. I think that there's a lot of YouTubers out there, and I can't mention them all, obviously, but you know, K6ARK, he does a lot of the little stuff, bringing his radios smaller. I'd be embarrassed around him, obviously, because my kid's just way bigger than probably anything that he's ever brought out in the field. All of his kits are just so small and innovative and very smart individual, and pretty impressive on what he can get, how he can activate a park with such a little footprint. You know, another one, obviously, Ham Radio Dude. I've been watching him lately, and he's got some really cool stuff that he's coming up with. I can't wait for the Spike to come out. This mast is been very impressive. You know, he's doing a lot of cool stuff. You know, Thomas Witherspoon, K4SWL, I believe, has definitely got me into the CW stuff. There's Evan as well. I think he has the Bama Key, and I know he's got the Gable. I watched one of his videos and picked up that, and you know, I saw that it was working pretty good. I was interested in it, and so I purchased it. So my advice is to go out there and watch other YouTubers as well. I hope that helps you get into the hobby. Obviously, the more people we have in the hobby, the more people we can talk to, and the more people we can communicate with. And so, you know, that helps. And in an emergency, we're going to need that as well. And I prepare for the emergency, but I play with the POTA. And so POTA is what I enjoy to do. And so, like I said, this is being released around Christmas time. I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas. Hope you all have a blessed day. And I hope this helps maybe one individual. Maybe you can see what I use. Maybe you can see what I use, and maybe it helps you out. Or maybe you can see what I use and that's too much and you don't want that. So, you know, make it help you in some way, whether it's positive or maybe it steers you in a different direction. Anyways, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and thank you guys for watching.